Hello and welcome along to another wintry week of weather. There are signs of things turning a bit milder as we go into next week. More on that in a moment. But certainly for this week, it is mostly just about the cold, the frost, the ice, and in places a little bit of snow. The UK is surrounded by areas of low pressure. But as we run through the sequence through this week, most of those lows stick to the south of the country. There is a cold front which pushes its way southwards and reintroduces the northerly winds through the middle part of the week. That will accentuate the cold feel. But without these lows coming in, we're not really going to see much in the way of change. If we take a look at the temperature profile by rewinding the clock, you can see that we're already in the colder air. We know that, but over the next 4 or 5 days, we don't see a great deal of change. These lows just flirting with the south. That's where the mild air is, but it never really gets in. It just sticks to the south and takes that milder air with it, and we stay blue. Now, until the weekend, that is, because this little low feature and these weather fronts may start to mix things up a little bit on Friday, and that could potentially open the door to milder air that's waiting in the wings down to the southwest as we go through the weekend and into next week. More on that in a moment. Let's rewind the clock once more and go through the week day by day because, as we know, we're starting cold. It's going to be a very frosty start to Tuesday. Icy potentially across the southeast, and snow and ice the hazard across northern parts of Scotland, with snow showers coming in here, and increasingly a chance of some wintry showers coming into southeast Scotland and northeast England later in the day. For many, though, it will be a dry day, perhaps not as foggy, although some patches of mist and murk and low cloud could stick across parts of northern England. Further south, we'll see some high cloud moving in, so any sunshine will be very weak indeed. The sun isn't particularly strong, of course, at this time of year anyway, so it's not going to have much impact on those temperatures. Struggling to get much above 1 or 2 degrees, perhaps 6 or 7 in the southwest later on. Notice the breeze just starting to pick up here, and that is because we've got a little weather feature, just one of those lows that's heading to the south, introducing clouds and potentially some wet weather across the far southwest. Now, there's quite a bit of uncertainty about the extent of this wet weather and therefore how much snow we're going to see. But it's one to watch because it could potentially bring some snow to southwest England during Tuesday night. The breeze also, as I said, picking up here. That's from this weather front, which is tied into this low, which is scooting down to the south. But as I said, uncertainty about how far north that weather front gets. Then eyes on this weather front as it sinks southwards, reintroducing that northerly flow as we go through Wednesday and into Thursday. So we still have snow and ice warning in place across northern Scotland and down into southeast Scotland, parts of northeast England, with the snow flurries continuing here. Likelihood is that that weather front will still be to the south. Could be quite a wet day over the Channel Isles. Most places, again, just dry with some sunshine, but cold with temperatures only 2 or 3 degrees at best. And as that wind starts to strengthen, it will feel colder once more across northern Scotland. That'll be a feature of the weather as we go into Thursday. That low is, again, closer, but still it looks like taking its weather fronts to the south of the UK, into France and across the Channel Islands, keeping things largely dry across the south. Just the possibility that that weather front could be a little further north. So it is something we need to keep a close eye on. There will still be wintry showers coming in across northern Scotland and perhaps across parts of northeast England. Most places, though, again, looking dry on Thursday. Temperatures just ticking up a degree or so, perhaps with a bit more sunshine. But again, it's going to feel cold, especially when you add on that breeze. Now, by the time we get to Friday, we could start to see more of a change. Notice up to the northwest, some wet weather coming in here. Now, that is this developing area of low pressure and these weather fronts just edging into the northwest. Timing will be critical, but that could bring some significant snowfall to parts of western Scotland during the course of Friday. But this is a few days ahead, so this is just something, again, we need to keep a close eye on. Probably rain around the coasts, but snow certainly over the hills. And that could be quite heavy as it moves through the day. But uncertainty about how far inland and how far south it gets. Meanwhile, across England and Wales, Friday looks largely dry, and again, temperatures struggling to get much above freezing. The winds, though, just starting to switch direction now. We've lost that northerly wind. They're now mostly coming in from the west or the southwest, and that is the change, it looks like, as we go into the weekend. The exact position and timing of this low and these weather fronts will firm up over the next few days, but that may well then open the door to much milder air. The yellows and the oranges down to the southwest, just pushing closer and closer as we go through Saturday and more likely into Sunday. So strong signals that it will turn milder during the weekend into the early part of next week. Now, that is in part due to the position of the jet stream. If we come back to the early part of the week, the bigger picture shows the jet stream is well to the south of the UK, hence taking the low pressure systems across France and Spain and Portugal. And this south shifted jet has allowed us to experience the much colder conditions of late. But as we run through the week, signs of the jet stream just edging a little further north, and that jet stream picking up and therefore taking the low pressure systems back closer to the UK. And the lows bring with them moisture, but they also bring with them that milder air coming up from the southwest. So that is why we're going to see this shift as we go through the course of the weekend. Now, these temperature profiles show that shift quite nicely. The red blobs are the maximum temperatures, the blue blobs are the minimum temperatures. This bottom graph is for Swindon, the top one is for Aberdeen. We generate these box and whiskers graphs by running the computer models several times. This is the ECMWF, the European Computer Model Run. The red line here is the average temperature. You can see all the box and whiskers are below average for the next few days, but there is an uptick. There is an uptick there as we go through the weekend, suggesting that the temperatures are going to be back much closer to average through the weekend. As we go into next week, notice the box and whiskers become a lot larger, hinting at more uncertainty. That's to be expected as we go through next week. That's a long way off, but that strong signal there of that uptick of temperatures rising as we go through the weekend and into the early part of next week. These are the temperatures at the surface, but what we can do is also take a slice through the atmosphere a little higher up and see what the temperature profiles are doing. And again, you get that same signal. Again, we're looking at Swindon and Aberdeen profiles here. The temperature at the moment and then that uptick, that lift in the temperatures as we go through the weekend. Notice Swindon, that rise happens a little earlier because the air is coming in from the south. And actually, these are really useful for looking at probabilities, and you can see that there are quite a few dotted lines across Aberdeen where the temperature doesn't rise that much. So there is some uncertainty about whether that mild air will actually get all the way across northern Britain, a much stronger signal further south for that, for those temperatures to rise. But also signals for next week, again, that spread as we call it, there is more uncertainty as we go through next week. Again, to be expected at this range. So it does look as if things will be turning milder as we go through the weekend into the early part of next week. How long that mild weather continues, well, that is open to some doubt, but again, that's to be expected at this time range. Now, of course, when things do turn milder, with those lows coming in, bringing milder air, they're also bringing moisture. So as that hits the cold air, there could well be some snow as we get this transition through the weekend into the early part of next week. Too early for details on that, but there could be some snow, as I say, as we get this transition before things do turn milder into the early part of next week. So keep up to date. There are warnings in place for the next few days. Best way to do that, of course, is to download the app, visit our website, or of course follow us right across social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And across social media, check out #WeatherReady. There's lots of advice, and especially on our website, about how to help you prepare for severe weather.